3.
Sie hören Sport und Musik.
Das Spiel ist aus! Deutschland ist Weltmeister!
In a world where fans fight over whether to call it football, or soccer, 2 German men defy the odds and call it Fußball. Bringing you inside the German-American football experience. And now, here are your hosts, the Schnitzel Boys.
Yahoo! Heyo! Adidas, We're pointing at our jerseys. We are appropriately dressed.
We're appropriately dressed for the America edition of the Schnitzel Boys.
American soccer. Oh man, I'm on this Facebook group that celebrates the obscure years of American soccer, the 70s and the 80s. And they have all these old videos and interviews and photos of obscure German players in short shorts playing for the, Chicago Sting or whoever. But my favorite was, the greatest. So there's another U.S. soccer history lesson for you, Bjorn, in a second. But First things first, I just want to say there was a photo today of the San Diego Sockers. Do you know this club, Bjorn, the San Diego Sockers?
I certainly do not.
Okay, well, it was a club back in the day that featured a young Hugo Sanchez, oddly enough, the Mexican great goal scorer, among many others. Ty Keogh, great American player and analyst many years. His father, Harry Keogh, was part of the 1950 squad. But clearly the newspaper that printed their info or whatever they misheard. It must have been done over the phone or something. Because the San Diego Sockers is spelled Sockers, as in sock 'em to you. But the team roster photo headshot board that I saw spelled it Soccers. The San Diego Sockers. That's how they support. It'd be like calling a baseball team, the Berlin Baseballs.
Oh my God!
They like baseball. Anyway, so that was just funny to me. San Diego Sockers, rest in peace. There was a great player in the NASL, a great German player named
Franz Beckenbauer.
It was Franz Beckenbauer, but there was one German better than him in the league.
What?
His name was Karl-Heinz Granitza.
Oh, he was better than Der Kaiser at 40?
He was. I think the Kaiser was 39. Come on. Give him a little. I think it was 39.
I mean, I'm rounding.
Or however old he was. I don't know. But I also learned recently there was a Cosmos reunion game in 1991 that the Kaiser played in at Giant Stadium or whatever.
Any excuse to come back. See if Studio 54 was still open.
Yeah. But anyway, Karl-Heinz Granitza had an obscure German playing career in Germany. He played for clubs I never heard of. Played for Eintracht Berlin or something, which is a club that I don't even think exists anymore. And he came to Chicago, played for Chicago Sting, and was a destroyer. He was like the Hani Mukhtar of the NASL. He was like a key player of Chicago Sting for years. He opened up a bar and a restaurant. He's like a Chicago mini legend. But no one knows who he is in Germany. But here in the States, for the old soccer fans, he's a big hit. As far as I know, I think he owns like a restaurant in Berlin now or something, or he passed away or something. But anyway, a shout out to the great Karl-Heinz Granitza.
Karl-Heinz Granitza.
When it meant like Ray Hudson, one of many Europeans that decided to duke it out here in the States, have a blast, as opposed to just go hang out in Europe.
Yeah, like me. I mean,
yeah, like you.
Not for soccer, but for other reasons.
Just for life, just to hang out. Yeah, in Germany, no one knows who Bjorn Bellenbaum is.
No,
But in the
they
United
don't.
States,
They certainly
you're a
don't. And
you're a big
nobody
star.
here, yes, our chef is very famous in London. Yeah. But it's playoff time. Let's talk about the thing that we want to talk about. We got the shirts on. You have, after tearfully, almost, not really, almost tearfully lamenting the fall of your team, the New York Red Bulls, last week, and saying how they're dying, you found a replacement.
Well,
And LAFC are not dying.
no, they're not dying.
They are not dying.
Firstly, a quick side note. I put out a video. I cut that little conversation into a little video, which did well. I tried to pull out of fun photos. I don't know if you saw it. I put a lot of fun photos.
Yeah,
there,
yeah.
blah, blah, blah.
That's very good.
It's up to 550 views right now.
Let's go, yeah.
So people are watching it. A lot of good interaction and comments, except for one Seattle fan who I don't want to get into. He had a little bit of a harsh comment saying, like, Seattle fan here, who cares? You died a long time ago. Okay, up on your ivory horse or whatever, you Seattle fan. We can't all be owned by Drew Carey, okay? Where the points don't matter. Because the points do matter. And we made it to the playoffs, and you did it, by the way. They were great this year. I'll send you a postcard, Seattle, from the playoffs. Anyway, I put a little thumbnail with Dietrich Mateschitz next to a deathbed on the video. I had no idea he was sick. It was announced about 2 or 3 days after I put that video that he died. The owner of my club died. Dietrich Mateschitz.
So you killed him? Is that what you're saying?
I'm not saying I killed him. No. I'm not even going to say a joke. All I'm going to say is, like on the Metro Fanatic boards and on the, they're pretty mixed. Some are quiet about it. Some are saying crazy things like "good riddance." It's just like,
wow.
You know what? He was a dude. He passed away. Rest in peace. My thoughts are with you.
He's the founder of Red Bull, right? Founder and owner of all
the drink. Yeah.
Yeah, so you're not going to hold him responsible for whatever is happening or not happening to
Well,
Red
a lot of
Bull
our
New
fans
York?
do, being an absentee owner, and I get that sentiment. But he's sick. It's unrelated. I don't know. He was more interested in racing than the soccer, which is true. And but Red Bull is a giant organization. They have a subset of Red Bull soccer that Mario Gomez, I think, is president of right now, former German national team player, and Stuttgart player Mario Gomez. So there are other people involved. The future of the Red Bull soccer organization, though, is kind of in question right now because of that too. Who knows? Maybe I think fans are talking about them maybe letting go of New York and maybe New York getting a new owner and more pipe dream stuff. But just saying that, I just want to give my thoughts and prayers out to Dietrich Mateschitz, rest in peace. That's all I want to say. Now, yes, I got a coupon which gave me a big discount on some merch. So I bought an LAFC jersey, which is what I'm wearing right now, and it served me well. I can't say I'm still a neutral. I think here in LA.
Okay.
I wear the shirt. It's a nice shirt. I went to the El Tráfico. I went to the LAFC LA Galaxy.
That's right.
game.
You have to tell us. Yeah.
I was there.
But you did not go. This was before you bought the shirt or after?
No,
So
I got this shirt months ago.
So you wore the shirt, but you felt neutral.
Yeah, I wore this shirt because I didn't want to fight with anybody. And I wore this shirt just to be in the spirit of it. But believe it or not, there weren't a lot of fights. There was a huge pre-game hang. We're in the lawn right by the Memorial Coliseum. Everyone's just out there. There's the radio there. There's beer everywhere. Everyone's having a good time. It was like a big lawn party. I don't know what to tell you.
Sure,
Huge. And then I found a ticket. I want to go a little bit of a rant here.
Okay.
Right? A ticketing rant. Now, Ticketmaster and StubHub and places like this are notoriously evil, Bjorn. Do you know why?
Excessive fees?
Excessive fees is part of it. But more importantly, they buy up all their own tickets before they go public and then resell them via a gray market type scheme. Similar to if there's like a hot Christmas toy and then a bunch of scumbags like me buy them all up and then desperate dads desperate divorced dads
Right.
who need to go to these guys and pay them twice what they're actually worth.
But
Now-
counterpoint though, why leave that profit margin to random people who buy them up and then resell them?
Demand, I don't know. Ticketmaster, for these past 2 games, because I'm also keeping an eye on the games for next Sunday. I'm waiting for them to make an announcement when tickets are public, and then they're always not available. Then all of a sudden, lightning flash, they're available, but only for resale, which means selling these tickets at face value isn't happening. They're saying it's happening, but it's not happening. It's immediately resale. And the cheapest ticket for this game on Sunday, as of right now, is $245 for the nosebleeds, I think, which is ridiculous. Anyway, this past game was no different. It's the El Trafico, it was all resale, blah, blah, blah. Tickets were $215, and they got a little cheaper. But around it's $250 for nosebleeds. I was lucky. I found a nice guy in Reddit who sold me his wife's spare ticket for $150. Still at least 2 to 3 times the face value of that ticket.
Right.
But it was the cheapest ticket I could find. Nothing was cheaper than $150 anywhere. So I paid $150 to go to this damn game.
Well,
but it was still a lot of fun. I had a good time. I sat in the nosebleeds in the last row. But it's a small stadium, so every seat in the house is a good game. And it was a lot of fun. It was back and forth.
it was a crazy game. Watching it on
game.
I was not there in person. I was watching it on TV. But yes, it was crazy. And I mean
Galaxy came out swinging. They had a great summer resurgence. Ricky Puig and Jimenez, I believe is it Jimenez? Ricky Puig mainly was just the signing of the summer, and he is quite the player. And he has all these great.
But
passes.
he should have gotten an early red card, right?
I maybe
What do we think? What do we think about that?
It's ironic because
quick shout out while you think about that. Quick shout out to Daniel Young, who's going crazy for NYCFC.
You got a guy in the
Let's
comments.
Let's go, boys in blue. Yeah. Oh, we have yet to talk about that game. We'll leave that for a little later. But yes, me too. You and me both. Anyway,
hey, Daniel
so
Young,
you came.
LAFC recap. So Galaxy came a swinging. And then there was a moment where Ricky Puig was thrown down in the box. There was an arm on his neck, maybe a little bit soft. So Ricky Puig exaggerates the move and falls himself on the floor. Then a player calls him out for exaggerating it. So he stands up fast in his face, kind of does a headbutt motion, a little bit maybe, right? Or he pushes or something going on. And the guy who calls him out for exaggerating falls himself on the floor and starts flailing around. And pot
meat kettle, yeah.
Pot meat kettle. So I just thought it was funny. I think it was early in the game. The ref just gave, I think, one or both of them a yellow card. Gave Ricky Puig a yellow card, right?
Puig a yellow card, yeah. Which is
okay
probably, in the scheme of things, the right decision because
they both exaggerated quite a bit. It's El Trafico. It's a playoff game. Just need to relax. You could tell there was some nerves. But the LAFC played so patiently, and they were not in any rush. They didn't play in any rush most of the game. They were just controlled, relaxed, and the whole team, the whole 11, slowly moves together up the field. And if they're not going up together, then they tend to stop moving. Like the whole idea of a long ball, quick run, that's not how they operate. They're out of the back and move their way up together as a team nice and slowly. And they were, despite the Galaxy coming out swinging, they were able to draw first blood. Sorry, for those of you watching, my freaking webcam I need to get a new webcam. It's so crazy. It just keeps auto-focusing, having the time of its life. And I really wish that Dan camera would just relax and stay still. But anyway, it's not that webcam. So LFC drew first blood. And then the Galaxy were able to get an equalizer right before the half. Now, where I was seated, I was surrounded by LAFC fans. And I'm a big guy. But a man much bigger than me sat right next to me in our cramped little seats. And it's like an airplane. When he sat down, half of him was on me. And I'm not, I'm a big guy too, but like, well, he was an LA Galaxy fan. Really big, loud, and drunk. Really big, loud, and drunk. Yelling, Galaxy! The whole time in this LAFC section. All of us are just quietly watching the game. We're cheering and clapping, but we're not really singing. We're on the opposite end of the 3252. They're doing all the singing over there. And then but all the singing and loud hearing is from the one guy directly to my left. He's saying, "Screw LAFC, go Galaxy!"
Wow, all right.
Time.
So you didn't do anything. You're not neutral. You're a neutral.
I'm neutral. There was stuff in our section, which I'll get to in a bit.
Oh.
There was a beer throwing incident.
Oh.
And everyone, including the guy I was sitting next to, was pointing at him. Like, get this guy out of there. Pointing at him. Everyone in the section was pointing at him. Narking the beer thrower? I think he had an LAFC jersey on. I think he was also an LAFC fan. What? He was sitting next to a Galaxy fan. Anyway, eventually, and the guy next to me wouldn't drop it, which is so funny. He kept being like, get this guy. He's for 5 minutes. Like, get this guy out of here. Trying to get security. Anyway, a little security lady shows up, talks to him, and then that whole section stands up and leaves. I would love to know what they said. But then
talks to the beer thrower?
Yeah, and him and his three buddies. There's 3 or 4 of them or something.
And then they all left?
Then the security lady left. And 3 or 4 minutes went by. Then they stood up and all left. And the security lady was waiting on the stairs. And the guy who was being ejected was like trying to talk to the security lady's face, but his friend pulled him away from him. I would love to know. I would love to have heard what that conversation was. It was you need to get out of here in the next 3 minutes.
She said, yeah, probably. We're gonna. That's exactly it. If you don't leave in the next 5 minutes, you're gonna get arrested.
Right, and so, but then they stayed there and watched the game for them 5 minutes. Then they should have been left, and then later in the game, they just came back. They came back twice.
Oh,
I think.
Okay.
They kept coming and going, without security being there. So your guess is as good as mine. I don't know what's going on.
Enforcement wasn't as tight as the man next to you would have liked.
No, but something did happen. But essentially, he's in the back row. He threw his beer, and it hits the LAFC fan in the second row because you can't throw a beer that far. One fan threw a beer.
Yeah, I mean, this is absolutely...
Also, stop throwing beer, man.
It's expensive. It's $15. Yeah, whatever it is. In Yankee Stadium, it's $15. People throw... I mean, for us, my seats in Yankee Stadium... We've mentioned before are in the section below the bleachers, so when there's a big game, I mean, that is just a fact of life. Somebody will throw a beer.
Yeah.
And
so it was thrown, and it went back and forth. 1-1 at the half, then it was 2-1, 2-2, and in the death in the stoppage time, Dennis, number 99, got a goal, and he was quiet all game.
And then went to hug his. I guess we learned later it was his wife.
Hopefully,
very provocatively dressed,
lady with a guy.
Maybe that's just California. I was like, wow, okay.
Well,
you don't see that every day.
It is California, and I would love. It was just some girl who was looking at in the first row. He's like, I want to kiss you right
It's
now.
like, oh, she seems like. Yeah, I don't know.
But he ran right past Owen Wilson, cheering Owen Wilson, head to toe with LAFC gear.
Didn't want to make out with him.
Didn't want to go with him. And then was lady, and the LAFC won 3-2, and good game on the Galaxy. And the Galaxy are decent sports about it.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Again, I don't know. We'll see. I'm trying to follow LAFC to the cup. My dream is that LAFC hosts NYCFC. So you can come out here and I can buy a $10 ticket from you and hang out in the supporter. My NYCFC jersey ready and hang out in the supporters section.
Yeah, I don't know. That depends on the... Well, I think with the... last year in Portland, they had a fair amount. I think they had like 2,000 tickets for us. There was a fair amount of... the tickets were available for people to go. But we're facing the same thing again as last year for this weekend in Philly. There's very few. I think the allocation is like 200 or something like that. And I just paid. I mean, I'm still in the lottery to get. There's a lottery for these tickets because many more people want to go. But I bought. I think it was also like $150. I bought some tickets
StubHub.
for the game on StubHub because I'm like that. But yeah, if the final was at LAFC, I don't know how many, because that's not a huge stadium either, right? How many people fit there?
23,000.
23,000.
Kind
So
of low.
I don't know. Would we get? But I guess with MLS Cup, there's different. For MLS Cup, because I know if my season tickets, I know there's a clause in my season ticket terms and conditions that I would not get my seats necessarily if we were hosting MLS Cup. So the rules are different then. So maybe we would get. There are more tickets, I guess, have to be allocated for press and whatnot, and probably also for visiting supporters. Anyway, all this to say, if we make the final, I would hope to hook you up with a reasonably priced ticket. That would be good. And yeah, I watched El Tráfico, and it was fun. It was an exciting game. There was a lot going on. Much in contrast to the earlier game, the Philly-Cincinnati game. You probably didn't see it because you were on your way to the stadium. But that was a pretty dreary. That was some pretty nervy and choppy kick around, and Philly seemed extremely tense as a team. And it was a lot of fouling going on both sides. A lot of arguing with the referee. I mean, there could be, the referee also not quite staying on top of it. He did not. He didn't have full control of the game, and people were in his face the entire time. And yeah, that was a game that only its mother could love. But anyway, in the end, the Philly Union, Leon Flack of all people, scored a goal off of a weird sort of bouncy corner kick. And that was enough. Leon Flack. That was enough. And
Flack.
I guess the one thing in terms of analysis that I would say about that game is basically contradicting my point from last week, where I would say, we were talking about last week about how St. Louis is overspending on goalkeeper Roman Bürki, and but then if you look at Andre Blake, who is one of the very few MVP candidates that were goalies. I think there's Tony Meola and somebody else. That doesn't usually happen, and he was their MVP that game. I mean, he had a bunch of great saves. Cincinnati had their chances, and they could not get past him. And so, there is also a point to be made. It is an important position, obviously.
That's what I'm saying. Riddle me this. I think the bigger issue is like, why are goalkeepers disrespect? Like Shaqiri is at $8 million a year. Andre Blake is at $900,000 a year. Between those two, who's really worth $8 million?
Yeah, that's a very fair point. And in terms of, Jim Curtin was subsequently talking in a pregame interview for this upcoming round. He was talking about how his analytics guys look at the goalkeeper position as the most important position in terms of adding points to a team. And so that's sort of the counterpoint. Still, you don't need to spend $2 million when you can get Andre Blake for $900,000. But you're right. But I agree with you. The goalkeepers are underrated, and Andre Blake was their MVP, and he had a fantastic game in an otherwise hard to watch kind of spectacle. That was on Thursday, and then.
But the LAFC Philadelphia Traumfinale. Dream final, Traumfinale, is still on the way. It's still on course.
Oh, it's not my dream. I don't know.
Well, that's what I'm saying. We got to upset the apple cart. And the only unseeded team to win this weekend.
You mean non-home team? Yeah.
Yeah, lower seeded, right?
Lower seeded. That's right.
Austin won.
Yeah,
at home.
and we made it.
We
made it, and we made it look easy, didn't we?
Yeah.
It was kind of. It was an odd. It was an odd game. I was feeling more confident somehow than last week against Miami. I was very pessimistic for whatever reason. This time I was like, oh, Montreal. We've never lost in Montreal. And I thought the team was coming together. Thales Magno was practicing, and I was feeling good. And then very early on, we scored another beautiful, almost similar to the second goal against Miami combination, many passes, and Maxi Morales again gets the early goal. And this was in the 6th minute, and then we were just very content to sit back quite far, and it was a bit of a struggle, and I kind of lost a little bit of my optimism because I thought we were just too far back, and Montreal certainly generated some chances. They hit the post. Maxime Chanot almost scored an own goal. Sean Johnson also made a couple of big saves. But then, as in stoppage time of the first half, we had another beautiful counterattack, which is almost a little bit in slow motion. It was funny to watch. It was like a counterattack, and you could really see what our team is about. It's not pace, because you see Santi Rodriguez, Maxi Morales, and Haber sort of ambling. There's a lot of space, and it's taking them a while. Taking them a while to get up there. It's not about speed, but very precise passing, and Haber makes the run, is just level with the defender, just onside, and connects it into the goal, and then a 2-0 lead, and that really felt a little generous, I gotta say, at that point, because Montreal had their chances. But then in the second half, we really leaned into the defending thing. We took Maxi Morales out and replaced him with Justin Hack, because Chanot had to come out because of an injury. He was replaced by Keaton Parks. That sort of left us with 2 center backs instead of 3. And then Nick Cushing just restored the same system by putting in Hack at center back and taking Maxi out, and we just defended. And again, there were a couple of big saves, couple of sort of lucky bounces for us, but it went better, I felt like. Montreal had a lot of the ball. I think in the end, possession was 65-35. But then on another counterattack, Gabi Pereira, who's really had a breakout season and is the breakout star of these playoffs, on our team at least, and maybe league-wide, I don't know. He got to the ball. He got a beautiful pass from Thales Magno, who came off the bench into space, and he got to the ball in the box before the goalkeeper, and the goalkeeper just swiped him off his feet for the easiest penalty call in the history of soccer. And then Thales Magno slotted that home, and again 3-0, and it's not fully representative, I thought, of how the game went, but we defended it well. And then it wasn't until the, I think, 86th minute where Mihailovic scored one, got one past Sean Johnson, who bumbled it a little bit from short distance, the only sort of blemish on an otherwise great performance by him.
Right. Solidifying a spot to Qatar.
I mean,
as he was doing that, Ethan Horvath did another big blunder over the weekend. As he can be really solid sometimes. But he had a terrible blunder that dropped him on Club Brugge. Then he had a terrible blunder that dropped him at Nottingham Forest. And now he has a terrible blunder at Luton Town. We'll see if it drops him there. Hopefully he survives this one. But no blunders for Sean John, because that last goal was not really a blunder. It was unhaltbar, maybe. It was a good kick off.
Yeah, I mean, it was from a very short distance and headed very with power, and so it just kind of, I mean, he got his hands on it, so then you always feel like, could have saved that, but yeah, and then the last few minutes were pretty nervy, I thought, considering we had that big lead, but anyway, beautiful. A beautiful.
We're heading to Philly,
victory.
baby.
We're heading to Philly. We're heading to Philly again for the rematch Sunday at 8.
First time a defending champion made it to the conference finals again since like 1921 or something.
Oh, is that true? I didn't even.
Not 1921, but like I think there's some stat where it's only happened 3 times in MLS history or something weird like that.
I
and it
mean,
hasn't
I
happened
would,
a lot.
it's sort of it's my team, and I am the homer of homers. I'm not going to deny that.
Totally.
Not going to pretend this is in any way neutral analysis, but it is. I mean,
Week after week, we're here, and I never see the same flag twice.
it's but I mean, we lost our coach, we lost our star striker, Golden Boot winner in the middle of the season. So to be in this position is no small thing. I
Right.
will just say that.
Okay, here you go. Let's say you lose against Philly on Sunday and are eliminated. Nick Cushing, does he get signed as a permanent coach? What are you thinking?
I think so. I think so. I think he's earned it. I think so. I would say yes. I mean, there was a time where things were not going well. The change definitely, but I think that is also just par for the course. I think we've seen this before. I've talked about that. We've seen this before when Patrick Vieira left. The coaching change it never goes that smoothly. There's always a transitional period. The team always looks sort of a little off kilter for a while. That just seems to be how it goes. But he solved these problems. He found solutions. He found ways, much like Ronnie Dyla did in his last year. There were a lot of injuries and there were a lot of people coming out, and he found ways to put his best players on the field, and that's the same with Cushing. Once he switched to the center back setup with Alex Collins sort of being this free man who has a lot of opportunity to roam forward, I think that really worked. And the team is clearly playing for him. He's found solutions, and so I think he's done. Yeah, I think he's done enough to deserve the job. I mean, if that was ever in question, I mean, he still has that interim tag, but I don't think there was ever anybody else interviewed. I don't know. This was always his job to lose, and I think he's earned it.
There's a lot of German coaches available. Pellegrino Matarazzo, Frank Kramer, Zeoni is available. What's the? I always forget. Is it Thomas Reis?
Thomas Reis, yeah.
Thomas Reis is available. Mm-hmm. What if Thomas Reis wanted to coach your team? Would you take him, or would you stick with Nick Cushing?
Well, I would take him, but I mean, this is a very this is the hypothetical. Hypothetical. I don't think wouldn't take Caleb Porter. I don't think I would take a lot of those people over Cushing. It's also just not how CFG usually operate. They're very much into consistency. They're not, I think the roster has been almost, for better or worse. There's oftentimes we've asked for, bring a DP, fill this spot, and they usually are opting for a more conservative approach and sticking with the people they have, and that's developing young players, developing people. And that's also true on the coaching side. I think Nick Cushing, he seemed sort of a little overqualified as an assistant when he first arrived, as he had a lot of success with the Man City women's team. And so he always seemed like someone who was kind of groomed to be a future head coach. And so I think aside from how we feel about him personally, I do feel like that is a positive approach. The consistency and going, sticking with people through, even when things are not immediately going well, that does pay off. In the Premier League, we're going to see that now. Are Leeds going to fire Jesse or are they going to stick with him? I think ultimately the team never looked terrible. Even when things were not going well, there were some poor performances, but it seemed like the core of the team was still going well, and I think that's true for Leeds as well. They're going through a dry spell, and
right.
So I think if the underlying if the spine of it or the underlying spirit of it, if that works, then there's no reason to change. Just always chasing sort of the immediate gratification is not a good strategy. So I think I agree with that in theory, and so in that sense, I think Nick should get the job.
All right, Nick, you heard it here first. Nick is signed to a 3-year, $60 million contract by City Football Group.
$60 million. All right.
Oh, whatever. By City Football Group, the most consistent and pro-humanitarian ownership group in MLS, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, my God. Okay.
A quick question. When Nick Cushing coached the Man City women's team, why wasn't it called Woman City?
Oh!
There you go, huh?
Good question.
The Man City ladies, it's just Woman City is what I would call it. That's all I would call it. Because I'm a genius, see?
I'm
and
sure
I got
there's
these
some
brilliant
people.
thoughts.
There's some people who call them that.
Here, the Schnitzel boys, it's Woman City.
Woman City.
I know. Woman City.
So
FC.
yeah, we.
Okay, and then we got so someone texted me today, and a friend of mine from LAFC texted me. He said, "Did you see Austin a lot this season? What's their weakness?" And I wrote back saying, "I actually did not see a lot of Austin this weekend, or just this season. I saw the game against Dallas. They had a really good, confident game against Dallas. The Dallas American boys had nothing. Jesus Ferreira, Paul Areola, Sebastian Lletget,
Yeah, pretty toothless.
Matt Hedges. They really had
Pretty
nothing
toothless.
to offer.
Pretty toothless performance. Yeah.
Austin FC had it from the first minute on. It was pretty, but granted, they had quite the home field advantage. Ooh. Atmosphere must have been electric.
Yeah.
But now we have Austin marching over Dallas, coming here to LA next week. We have Austin versus LAFC, and what I want to see is I want to see Will Ferrell come out there and throw. LAFC has a tradition where they have a bird flying around, and then in the middle of that, I want Matthew McConaughey to come out on the field with his drums. He leads his drum circle. I want him to have a Will Ferrell, Matthew McConaughey owner off right before the fans. That's what I would. That would be worth the $200 ticket alone.
You're going to see all of that probably. Yeah,
I
yeah.
hope so.
There's going to be there's going to be a lot going on.
But I
Austin
couldn't tell you-
Austin FC weaknesses. I mean,
Yeah.
defensively defensively inconsistent. They had a pretty solid game. They had a pretty solid game against Dallas, and Dallas also pretty toothless. Although in the second half there were some moments, but yeah, I think Austin is still a little up and down. I think they have just lapses of focus, especially defensively. So I think, but they are coming together at the right time. But I think they haven't seen an offensive team like LAFC. So this is going to be interesting. Right. I mean, Brad Stuver, just amazing goalie. He was Sean Johnson's backup, and I would not have said at the time that I thought, oh, this guy's gonna be a starter somewhere and lead his team through to the conference finals. But yeah, he's been great and good for them. But I think it'll be interesting to see LAFC. I mean, LAFC also haven't looked vulnerable, haven't looked unbeatable. That Galaxy game definitely.
No, it's pretty 50-50.
They also there. I mean, it took Steve Cherundolo to stop him to remember that he had Chiellini on the bench. It seemed like he
didn't do any substitutions.
It seemed like he could have used him earlier. But anyway, so
maybe Gareth Bale.
It's gonna be an interesting game. It seems like
maybe
there
Gareth
will
Bale be available. Maybe.
Yeah, he has a lot of. I mean, I think he's stuck with his guys, and I think that's to some extent a positive. But yeah, anyway, it'll be interesting. It'll be a good game. Austin FC really highly overachieved this season. They keep bringing up that everybody picked them to finish bottom of very, very far down the West beginning of the season. So everything for them is bonus. They probably don't feel a lot of pressure. LAFC probably feels a little bit more pressure, but it's going to be an interesting game.
Yeah, they're playing with fire. It's going to be tight.
Much like the Eastern Conference final.
All right, we got two fun Eastern Conference and Western Conference finals leading to the
Philly
MLS.
Philly wants revenge. They feel like they got.
That's right. They deserve it.
If people don't remember, half of their starters. What the story is, right? The unofficial story is Andre Blake, the much lauded and formerly mentioned Andre Blake, had a birthday party at his house.
Oh, and
and
that's
a
what
bunch
got the disease.
and a
right?
bunch of people went and then tested positive for COVID and could not play this game. And so the Philly
Andre Blake's
fans,
birthday again.
well, it's not for a while, right? We're earlier in the year than last
Are
year,
we?
so maybe
A little bit.
because of the World Cup.
Yeah.
Anyway, the Philly fans certainly feel like our championship deserves an asterisk because of that game.
Sure.
I mean, I think the reality is a little more complex than that because we were missing Tatianos and a bunch because of a red card and a bunch of, we did not field our strongest squad either. And I think psychologically it was a big shift right before the game, because we would have been the underdogs, especially without Tati. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh, you facing this weakened team, so now you're supposed to win. So I don't know.
Bottom line was the game. The game was whatever Sunday at 3. So show up.
And so
it's not like
and
NYCFC
we
went poisoned the Philly players.
right.
So they did it to themselves. But now no more. Now you're healthy. You got no rematch.
Yeah, Philly, and they're fired.
Go
They're
get
fired up. They're fired up, and it seems. I mean, I'm definitely worried about it. I don't think we're gonna just waltz in there and win this game. I think Philly looked nervy, like I said, and same with Austin. Actually, they both looked very nervy in their first round games, but that's probably they shook off a little bit of that by winning, and Austin really had a hard time in their first game with needed penalties and had to come back from 2 goals down, and Philly needed Andre Blake to be very, very good. And so I don't know, we'll see how it goes. I paid big money for this ticket and I'm gonna be there and celebrate. I mean, honestly, celebrate our team no matter what, because great season, like you're saying. Not most defending champs do not do all that well in the subsequent year, and so even having come this far is great. And Philly, I mean, for all I was listening to Rox Fontaine of Chop Soccer Pod. He's an NYCFC guy. He was talking to David Gass earlier today, the Extra Time guy, and he was saying, everybody looks good until they play NYCFC. Nobody wants to see us in our current. I mean, we are rounding into form, and who knows? Every game's different. Who knows how we're going to show up on Sunday? But if we play like this, no one wants to play us. And as much as Philly wants revenge, I'm sure they would have. If you ask them, honestly, they would have rather seen Montreal. Anyway, we'll see how it goes.
All right, that's your opinion. My opinion is Philly's going to bulldoze you guys 3-0, no problem. Because the Philly freight train is a thing.
That's what you hope. That's what you hope will happen.
Actually, no. I hope you win.
Oh, and then you get my cheap ticket,
So I
right?
need cheap MLS Cup final tickets. And I go to MLS Cup final. That's my traum. All right, cool. So that wraps up. One more thing I want to talk about, which you alluded to.
Yeah.
Unless you have other things, is Jesse Marsh still has a job in Leeds, and watching Americans. Pellegrino lost his job not 2 weeks ago, or 1 week ago, to remember. And now Jesse Marsh seemed like he was on the chopping block, because if you saw his body language in that Leeds Fulham game, Battle of the Americas, there should have been 4 Americans on the field, but I think Tyler Adams is injured. The only American player who we cannot replace if he's injured, so hopefully it's not too bad. But it was Brandon Aronson, Tim Ream, Jerry Robinson, all 3 of those guys having a great games, especially Tim Ream. Oh, boy, is he the center back? He's the only U.S. center back who's crushing it right now. He's the only U.S. center back in form. Maybe Eric Palmer Brown as well, but he's never super duper impressed me in the U.S. shirt. Mm-hmm. So, Tim Ream should go to Qatar. I actually am on that team.
Okay.
And B, as a New York Red Bulls fan, I've seen this all before. Jesse is good at implementing the high press, but he's not good at plan B, and he's not good at defense. And his teams, by minute 80, are gassed, and that's when the other teams can score goals. So the fact they're at each other 1-1, and then Fulham gets a goal at the end, it's like, I've seen that so many times before. And just like Bob Bradley at Swansea wanted to play his super Barcelona-style soccer, I think at the end of the day, in high leagues like this, you got to get scrappy. You got to have a scrappy plan. You got to be tight in the back. You got to kick it long. Like, I think Leeds needs to be better in the defense. Now, However, the fans still seem to like him.
Well, so do the underlying numbers, right? There's a little bit. I mean, there's some evidence in terms of expected goals and whatnot that the team is actually doing pretty well and will eventually be all right. But there is certainly that American thing because he's an American coach. Right. The analytics community is American, so it also is a lot of English fans on Twitter are sort of receiving this as like, oh, it's Americans defending Americans. This is all bullshit, and he should be sacked. So,
well, but the other argument to that is his signings are doing great. Marcelo Bielsa's signings are stinking it up. So his center back, he needs a center back. He needs to sign. If he give him January and let him, for crying out loud, sign a talented Premier League level center back. Yeah, he needs that. And maybe a Premier League level number 9 because Patrick Bamford isn't cutting it.
Well, but Patrick Bamford's also, he's not going to keep missing all these chances. He's missing a lot. He won't do that all the time. I mean, he will score eventually. And it's
eventually he needs to score consistently. It's the Prem. So I'm let the Jets still has his job. Hopefully they can turn it around. But they got Liverpool next, and they got Arsenal after that, or something. Or not Arsenal.
They have a very tough schedule. They have not. No, I mean for sure, it's a tough situation. They have not been. They've had a pretty easy schedule so far. They should have needed to rack up a little more points, much like Fulham or Bournemouth,
right.
they're facing an uphill battle. Yeah, Fulham's probably already saved them. They saved themselves already.
Yeah. But the other thought is just like in the early 90s when Americans were just starting to play in Europe and it was a new thing, you had like obscure players. You had a guy in Hungary or two, maybe a guy in Holland. I think that's different. Now you got Americans at Chelsea and Juventus and blah, 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 and Gio, But now it's that's that time for the coaches. You got Pellegrino Matarazzo and Stuttgart. He did okay, but he got let go. And Jesse Marsch is about to do his second season, not being able to finish the season with his club in a row. So Americans are doing it, an upgrade from they're not there at all, but we're in that obscure mode. I think the era of Americans being successful coaches that win leagues and play in big clubs, that's still a long ways away. Yeah, we're not there yet, but so we're just slowly but surely. Right now, it's the American coaches pioneering period. Much like the U.S. players in the early 90s. That's just what my thoughts
are. I mean, I'm also no huge fan of Jesse Marsch, so I'm not like necessarily looking to defend him. But I think he deserves to keep his job for now, I would say.
Yeah, hopefully it gets through to the transfer window. That's all. And then get one or two nice players, I hope.
Needs more center backs. Yeah, I mean, they lost a lot. Like, Rafinha is tearing it up in La Liga. And, yeah, it's not... I mean, people are just one more thing. People are nostalgic for Bielsa, and of course, he's led them back to the Prem, and he deserves a lot of credit. But that team was under the last. They kept him for a long time when the team was terrible. So it's not like, I mean, I think they needed to change for sure.
Well, Jesse Marsch, despite what Bjorn said, I'm on your side, and I'm rooting for you. Wish you the best, and I hopefully you last the season, turn around, and get something going on there in Leeds. We're rooting for you, bud.
All right.
Any other thoughts with the American soccer milieu?
Let's go NYCFC.
Let's go LAFC. I'm still a neutral, but you're way down.
Sympathizing.
I'm a sympathizer.
If I get you an MLS Cup ticket, you're gonna wear.
Have to wear. I'm not gonna wear that. I'm gonna wear what I wore last time I went to CFC ticket. I'm gonna just wear a blue shirt.
All right.
So it could just be a shirt I'm wearing. It happens to fit.
It happens to be blue,
but it's really just a shirt.
Right.
That's sort of a way. That's how I get away with that. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this was the Schnitzel Boys America Soccer Edition.
Yeah, not Fußball.
Not Fußball. If you want to hear more German stuff, we got that on the other pod. It's in the same feed, but we got 2 episodes every week, American edition and German edition.
That's right.
as we wind down crazy October, crazy MLS, crazy Bundesliga, heading into the World Cup. All right, tell your friends, tell your family, subscribe, like, check us out on YouTube. Got fun little videos. We might add little photos and stuff. And
Perhaps.
Perhaps.
Editing.
A little editing, baby.
Oh.
All right. Cheers. Until next week.